today's session, and then we'll take extra questions. What would be the similarities between a house and a dress?
Okay, so with the similarities, when you are building a house or a building, you need a plan, as in the measurement goes into it, how big you want the hall or the bedroom to be. That's the same in a design. So maybe you are building a story building or just one building, like you want the roofing to go very high or that kind of normal roofing. So when it comes to the dressmaking, so you need a measurement for
Yes. Mm-hmm.
the person you are sewing for.
Okay.
Then the design of the dress, apart from the person's measurement, the design of the dress you are going
Okay.
to sew.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I would
Thank
also
you.
want to add that
Mm-hmm.
with the building or with the house, you would always
Mm-hmm.
need to have a foundation. It is
Mm-hmm.
a step-by-step process. So
Mm-hmm.
the foundation is usually laid before other courses are added. So the same
Yeah.
way, the dress, you cannot go jump to finishing when you have not really, like my colleagues have said, you have not
Mm-hmm.
out the parts and you have not cut the pieces.
Yeah.
So it's always a step-by-step process.
Yeah. Well, I think we all agree with everyone that has shared the similarities. Let me ask now, what are some of the differences between a house? I just need two people. What are the differences between a house and a dress?
A house is stationary. A dress
Mm-hmm.
is worn around.
I like that. Okay, one more person. Abigail, hello. Give me
I
one
think that
difference between.
the things needed for the construction are completely different
Mm-hmm.
for the house. For
Okay.
a house, cements, blocks, you know,
Mm-hmm.
dresses, fabric, and all of that. So the materials are different.
Yeah. Yes, we mentioned that you need measurements. You need the house size. How big do you want to, make the house? You need sleeves. You need a silhouette. That is the style or how it will fit on the body. You need the fabric. You need the details, the color coordination. If you're doing color blocking and things, the length of the dress, you definitely need to know the closure and entry, which is one of the most important parts of the dress. How you enter and how you enter and exit the dress is one of the things that you can say are similarities within a house. So in a house, there is a door, there's a back door, there are windows, there are different ways you can enter a house, which might not be as needed in terms of the number of things, the number of entries you would need. It might not be as needed on a dress. But the point is you can't build a house without an entry and a close, like, and an exit, right? You can't also you shouldn't make a dress without thinking about how you enter a dress. So I think we can agree on everything. Thank you so much. We are going to use this same analogy to sort of build on the knowledge we are trying to get when it comes to sewing, right? And I have a short quote that says, just like having beautiful houses without function, it will simply be an art piece to be admired and not enjoyed if it is not functional. So it has to be both beautiful and functional. What are some of the parts of the body that you believe is essential when you are designing a dress?
The back.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, go
I
ahead.
think the back is one part that is essential to know the measurement.
Mm-hmm. The
I
bust
think
is
the
good. Mm-hmm.
hip too
Mm-hmm.
is
Very
essential in making a
good.
dress.
Yeah, it's a feature of the body that we are looking at to say, okay, because this is a part of the body or this is a feature of or a quality of the body, we have to translate it into a dress length, for example.
Yes, please.
Please, is it
It
the
is.
leg, like between the hips to the
Mm-hmm,
leg, like the
mm-hmm.
feet? So
Yeah, you're
which
going.
part
You're
of
getting
the
them.
leg
Yeah,
you want it to be?
yeah.
Maybe to the knee side, or between the
Mm-hmm,
knee and the foot, or between the hip
mm-hmm,
and the knee. You try to
mm-hmm.
consider where exactly the person wants to the
Yeah,
dress to rest.
yeah. So what's another word we can call that? So it's actually the height. So you are taking. So when you look at the person's body, okay, you're looking at the person's height. You're looking at the person's bust line. You're looking at the person's hip line. You're looking at the person's arm, right? Just as I was talking about in a house, when you build a house, you need to think about all these things. So if we're even creating a dress for a house, we would say maybe the sleeves are like the windows. The zipper side is like the entry, the back door, or let's say the front gate, wherever you put the zip. There are some zips, there are some dresses that have the zip in front. So let's say that's their front gate or entrance. Then they have like a back door if you have the zip at the back, or if you're on the side if you have the zip. Like, do you get where I'm trying to do the similarities, right? But of course, you are taking recognition of the fact that the body has to fit into the dress, and if it has to fit into the dress, the fabric has to respect certain features of the body to make it happen. So that is your first. I hope you're taking your notes. That's the first lesson you need to know about the body when you're scanning the body, that there are different body parts that must be taken into recognition when you are making a dress. Now, the body is usually a symmetrical object. And when we say symmetrical, we mean that if you folded it in two, you will see the same thing on both sides. And asymmetrical is if you folded it in two, you wouldn't see the same things at the same sides. The same human body that we see, it is both symmetrical and asymmetrical at the same time. Can you guess how that is the case?
It's symmetrical because on your left side, you have your hand, you have your
Mm-hmm,
legs. That's the same thing on your right side. So
mm-hmm.
that is how it is symmetrical. It is
Okay.
asymmetrical because in certain situations you get maybe people saying, oh, one leg is longer than the other, one leg is shorter than the other, one arm is
Mm-hmm,
longer than the other, one arm is shorter than the other, one
mm-hmm.
arm might be fatter than the other. That is how it becomes asymmetrical. That's what I think.
Okay, so I think with the asymmetrical, it's about the front and the back, where um the front you have the back there, and at the back
Mm-hmm.
the back is flat, and down when you come down you have
Mm-hmm.
the buttocks, and the front must
Mm-hmm.
be flat, and that kind of
Mm-hmm.
shape.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Very, 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 very correct. But then if you are cutting the form from the side, if you're cutting the form from the side, then that's when you have the front and the back, and they would have separate features. Now, I want to also, in the spirit of being inclusive, there's also the part where there might be people who might have survived different forms of injury, accidents, different things might happen. And so their front and back might not even be symmetrical. Let's say, for example, you have a friend who survived an accident, right? And let's say the person is wearing a prosthetic arm. It's most likely that prosthetic arm might not be the exact shape and form as the other arm would have. Do you get it?
Yes,
So in
please.
certain cases, or let's say the person is wearing a prosthetic foot or a prosthetic, anything, that there are even people who have like their, let's say they get, cancer, breast cancer, and so they have to do like, the nurses here, please help me with the word. There's something sectomy. They they have the surgery done, and so they might not have the actual breast there, and so it might not be symmetrical.
Mastectomy.
Mastectomy, yes. So when you are it might not be even on, you know, the actual breast, one is bigger than the other. But of course, when you wear a bra, it sort of levels it, right? You have to take all these different considerations into play when you have a friend, a client, or someone, you know, with those peculiar features on their body. So that's what I wanted you to know. Now, like Linda already shared, the front and the back are first asymmetrical as a full form. And so when we are cutting, I'm sure you've seen this before, we divide them into two. First, we divide them into front and back. That's the first two divisions we do. Then the second divisions we do is now folding the front different and folding the back different. And those are the two main divisions we do when we are trying to fit a dress on somebody, or when we are trying to cut the style. So now when we are taking measurements, we've understood that now there are different parts of the body, there are different features of the body. With the bust is different, the back is different. So if you're taking the body measurements, we use this knowledge of the both symmetry and asymmetry. We use that knowledge to conveniently draft patterns. What do I mean? I mean that first we divide. The first rule of sewing is that always try find a symmetry, fold, and then cut it. If you cut it once and you open it, it would look like the full thing, right? So now, if you understand it that way, what we are trying to say is, okay, if I want to cut a dress up, cut something, a dress to fit this body, I'll first have to now work with the front separately, work with the back separately, and then I'll cut the front once, but when I open it is the full front, and then I'll cut the back once, when I open it is the full back. There's a video you will see to this, but I'm just giving the introductory concepts to it. So now when you want to cut the front, there are some things you need to take notice of when you're cutting the front. You need your measurements to make that cut easier. So when you're taking your measurements, these are the measurements you would need. I'm sure all of us have been to a seamstress or a tailor and we've had these measurements taken. So they will take your shoulder, they will take your bust, they will take your waist, they will take your hip. That is how they will fold you, if I wanted to say it like that. That's how they'll fold you into two, because now they are using this middle line, this white line, right, to decide how to fold you. This middle line, they are using it to decide how to fold your fabric to fit you. And so they will need your horizontal measurements to make that lining or that drafting easier. And then the verticals are straightforward, right? The verticals are literally where your dresses stand on you, standing upright. And so we would need different details because that is where it gets tricky. The verticals gets tricky because, like Linda said earlier, when on the bust side or the front side, you get to the bust or the bulging earlier than you do when you get to the back, where there is, the back side, right?
Yeah.
Does it make sense? Yeah. So that's where it gets tricky, and that's why you really need your shoulder measurement to guide you, because the shoulder is where the shoulder measurement is your compass to where you are going at. Go down this inches, that's where you find the bust. It's the shoulder to the hotel. You go down this inches, this is where you see the hip. You take measurements in two parts. We'll take the verticals. So the verticals are where we are checking how you are standing. So when you are standing, the dress will be upright. We need some measurements. And we actually start with the verticals. It's good to start with the verticals when you are drafting your pattern. So I said earlier, as one of the idealized, that when you are sewing, it's like when you wake up in the morning, you wrap a fabric around your waist or you wrap a fabric around your chest, right? But when you wrap that fabric around your chest, it doesn't lay flat and fit your body and your hips will be showing nicely, does it? It doesn't, right?
Mm.
It just drapes on your body like that, right? It is because there has been no meticulous effort from you as a tailor or anybody else. Sorry for the background noise. There hasn't been any meticulous effort from anybody to now shape that fabric to fit your bust line, to fit your hip line using your measurements. So if I wanted now, if you had that fabric around your chest and I wanted it to now fit your body, right? I would say, okay, now I want to start with your bust. I want to fit your bust so that it will be like a cap, right? How do I get your bust? I have to measure from your shoulder to the bust and say, okay, this is the bust, where I can find the bust. And then I'll hold it there. And that's how come the bust will form like a cap. Then when I go to the waist, I'll tighten it a bit. Then it will tighten. When I get to the hip, I'll tighten it, right? But I can't tighten it if I don't know how big your bust is, how big your waist is, or how big your hip is. And that is where the horizontal measurements will come in.
Okay.
So the shoulder is just telling me, oh, it's like you are driving to a place. The shoulder is telling me that, oh, just walk 5 meters, you find the bust. But I want to use the fabric to cover the bust. How many yards of fabric do I need, or how much length of fabric do I need? That is where the bust measurement itself will tell you. So the bust measurement will tell you that, oh, the entire bust is, let's say, 15 inches. The bust measurement that will tell you. The waist measurement will also tell you the same. The hip will also tell you the same. That is why those two sets of measurements help you locate what to do at what part. Please, does it make sense? If you don't understand, please ask questions, feel free, and then we'll go on. Now, if I go to the shoulder side, I ask myself, how wide is the shoulder? Then how wide is the waist? The waist measurement will tell me. How wide is the hip? Same. So, like I mentioned, that the body is a symmetrical, object. It means that if I wanted to cut for the front side, I could actually just cut half of it on fold. Like when I fold it, I could actually cut half of it. And then when I open, it becomes a full dress. Okay, so when you cut half of the front and you open it, it will become the first part of the front, or actually it will become the front in totality. And that same process goes for the back. And so I put this shadow of a diagram here for you to see how it would look on the right? So now it means that if you want to cut this part of the body, we would need to draft what we call the basic bodice block. Now the basic bodice block is the first draft of how the dress would look like when we are trying to put it together. So what we do is we cut it in a way. So the basic bodice block is your first template in drafting any dress. With this block, you can make changes to it. With this block, you can make a corset. With this block, you can make tank tops, off shoulder, and everything else you are thinking about. And we are going to learn how to draft it as well. And this is how it looks once. So you remember I was saying that when you cut it on fold like this and you open it, this is how it will look like on the side, right? Okay. So now this is for a full dress. So this is both like, so usually when we are cutting a basic bodice block, it's actually half of the body. So let's say just the top side, and then the skirt side is also a different bodice block. But usually what I ask students to do is draft it fully like a dress like this. So typically you wouldn't find this as a basic bodice block. This is actually a full dress pattern that we have drafted. But when you draft it that way, you can see how easy it gets to transfer this into any other style. So now you can see all the measurements that we have. So you see the basic bodice block I shared last. That's okay. This is like a full dress. when you fold your paper and you cut it like that and you open it, this is how it is going to look like, especially on fabric. But I'm going to try and get you to ease into it. I'm not going to ask you to, I mean, this is actually a very easy basic bodice block that you can draft. But I'm going to ask you to do this. And please, no pressure. It's just trying your hands on it, okay? I want you to take your own measurements. And then you use the measurements to draft your basic bodice block. It doesn't have to be perfect, you know. Just follow the details in the video. Like I said, no pressure. This is not supposed to look perfect. I'm expecting mistakes. I'm expecting to celebrate mistakes. So I'm going to share the video with you, but you have some understanding of what we are trying to do here, right? And then we are going to use that to design this basic bodice block. This is actually the end of the session for today.